bloody hell, boy, stop. Get out, bloody. Oh, my legs aren't what they used to. Hello, I'm an old man. And because I'm so old, in fact, 1,675 hours old in the Garry's Mod universe, I'm actually quite a whiz when it comes to building stuff. So, without further ado, I'm going... Sorry about that. As I was saying, without further ado, I'm going... Right, sod that. Sod doing that voice for the next 30 minutes. I wanted to solve the bloody mischief. How is everybody going? Welcome back to Great Scott Gaming, and thank you for joining me in Garry's Mod. As I said in my channel update vlog, I play quite a bit of Garry's Mod, so I thought I would start a tutorial series just to really teach you guys how to make some of the cool stuff I can, really. So I'm going to start off the series by making a vehicle chassis and sort of like a suspension system, really. Now, I know it might sound complicated, but trust me, if you follow my instructions to the T, it will be very easy for you. Cool, so let's crack on. Now, just to make this easy, I'm going to be basing the design of the chassis on sort of a comfortable saloon car, really. So, now to make the chassis, you'll need a few add-ons and tools just to make your life a bit easier. These are precision alignment. You will also need Advanced Combat Framework, or ACF for short. You will also need Axis Center, and you will also need Ball Socket Center. I will put all the links to those add-ons in the description below. So, firstly, what you're going to need to do is spawn a central base prop. Now, this is basically just going to act as a central prop to which you'll constrain all of your other props to. The size of the prop really depends on the size of the vehicle you're building, but as a rule of thumb for this exercise, the length of the plate will be the same as the actual wheelbase of the plate. So, obviously the wheelbase is the distance from the centre of the front wheels to the centre of the back wheels. So I'm just going to go into... Oh, that's another add-on you will need. It's an add-on called S-Props, and it just basically gives you all these sort of very basic sort of plates and whatnot, but it's very handy for building stuff because you can actually make your own things rather than basing everything on props that are already within the game, if you will. So I'm going to spawn a plate in that is 60 by 90, roughly. So there we go. So what we do is we just start off by holding that up in the air and freezing it. By the way, in this game there is a north and a south and an east and a west. You always build facing north. Basically what that means is all your constraints will be based around your sort of world spawn, or your sort of point where you're looking, if you will. So if that's facing north to south and you constrain your wheels so they'll only turn in a certain axis, it's going to be all good. So yeah, I start by spawning a base prop like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into transportation, and just for the intents and purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to spawn two wheels, these ones, like so, and again another two wheels, like so. So just maneuver those into position. Then what I'm going to do is where precision alignment comes in. I'm going to move these wheels by the center point to the corner of this plate. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, using precision alignment, I'm going to click the first point there, and then I'm going to change it to mass center. I'm going to shift click the wheel, and then I'm going to right click the wheel, and then I'm going to go into my context menu, which is obviously the Q menu, or you might have it just set up like I do. This is a little bit easier. So once that's done, yeah, you want to move it from point 2 here to point 1, So from point 2 on the left to point 1 on the right, click move entity, and bam, you move your wheel over. Now there is an easier way of doing all this, rather than just sort of moving each wheel individually. I'll actually do it this way just to show you guys how easy it is. So we know that that's the front left corner, and we know that the other wheel on the other side will be here, and there will be a wheel here, and also there'll be a wheel here. So what you do is you go into precision alignment again. You click on plane, hit pause and hit normal. Okay. You then want to find roughly the center of your plate. So I haven't got the Smart Snap grid set up properly, so that doesn't actually lock onto the center, but it will still work. So you left click the center of the plate roughly, and then say you want to mirror that wheel back here. What you do is you click on a plane that's perpendicular to the sort of direction, if you will. So we want to mirror it sort of along that plane, if you will. And if you can see, it's the game's precision alignment sort of drawn up a little box, and that indicates the plane which it will mirror that object on. So once you've done that, you press the R button. That opens up this special context menu. You click on rotation functions, little tab here. You click on mirror across plane, and you can see the plane that you've created there. So you left click on that, and then this is important, you shift left click rotate entity. Bam. And you'll find that it mirrors the plate across. Now if you want to do the same on the other side, all you need to do is, again, choose the plane that you want to mirror across from that point, and you can see it's changed the box so it's mirroring across this plane here. So this will be the center point. And you do exactly the same. R menu, shift, left click, rotate entity. And you can also do the same with that one, just by shift right clicking on that other wheel. So there you go, you've got your wheels in place. Now a lot of people will move their wheels out just so that they are not colliding with this central prop. To be honest with you, I don't bother. What I tend to do is I will move the prop up sort of 300% of its width, like that, and I will no collide, right click no collide that. Now what that means is nothing will collide with this central prop. Okay, excuse me. Now what we need to do then is go back into precision alignment, and first of all, the way this game, this is another add-on, sorry, that you will need, make spherical. It basically makes a spherical, a circular object, so it doesn't have any edges. Because what Garry's mod does is it rasterizes the edges of this here. So it makes it very lumpy when the wheel is turning. You'll find if you don't use make spherical, your wheels will bounce about all over the place and you won't get grip when you're actually driving the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click make spherical on each wheel. Just a simple left click on each wheel. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to select the centers of each of all 4 of the wheels. Now the way you do that is on the first prop you just simply left click whilst you've got precision alignment and point mass center selected. So you single left click on the first one, you then shift left click on the rest of them. Now the wheels are going to attach to the base prop of the chassis by the center point to another point on the chassis on this plate. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach this wheel here to that point there in that corner of the base plate, and also that point there in that corner of the base plate. And basically what it means is that single center point there is going to be swinging from there and there, so it's going to have an axis or an arc sort of round that way. So the way you do that is, again, you just shift left click on each corner of the wheel, starting with the corner away from the first wheel, if you will. So there, and then again, there, and there. Oops. There. And as you can see, it's drawn the points. You can see number 5 there. You can see number 6 there. Number 7 there. And number 8 there. So then we're going to go into our context menu again. Like that. And we're going to select constraints this time. And we're going to select a rope constraint. I'm going to make it a rigid rope. That just means a rope that doesn't flex. It's kind of like, if you can imagine a solid bar connecting 2 points, that's what a rigid rope will act like. So I'm going to select point 1, and then I'm going to select point 5. I'm going to select the width. You can set the width to whatever you want, but I usually just select the width as 1, and I'll have that black prop model there. So I'm just going to click create constraint, and bam, you can see it creates a rigid rope from that point to that point. I'm going to do the same from point 1 to point 6. Then I'm going to do the same from point 2 to point 6. And point 2 to point 5. I'm then going to do the same from point 3 to point 7. And point 3 to point 8. And then point 4 to point 8. Point 4 to point 7. And as you can see, it's created sort of like this weird triangular sort of swing arm sort of effort, really. That's the best way I can describe it. So once you've done that, basically what that means is if you just quickly duplicate that, it basically means that your wheels sort of, the axis around on those ropes, you know, where you've attached them to the central base prop. So I'll just go back into precision alignment and we can delete all those points now. Now, because these wheels aren't constrained properly, well, they are constrained by the rope that's attaching them to the chassis, but basically they are currently allowed, they could flip over that way, or they could flip over that way in the wrong direction. You know, the front wheels obviously would just want to turn in the Z-axis, so in this sort of plane, they don't want to be turning that way, and they don't want to be turning. Oh yeah, they do want to be turning that way, don't they? So, the back wheels obviously just want to be turning in that axis, so they can rotate. They don't want to be turning that way, and they don't want to be turning that way. So what we're going to do now is constrain the rear wheels to the central prop so that they only turn in one direction. And again, the way you do that is precision alignment, left click the first, right click the second, and then right click, left click, single left click the first one, shift left click the second wheel, and then also shift left click the actual base prop. Then go into the R context menu again. I'm going to go to constraints again. I'm going to select point 1 to point 3. I'm going to select a ball socket advanced constraint. Okay. We're going to tick free movement. We're also going to tick no collide. It doesn't really matter about no collide because you've already no collided the base prop. What we're going to do is set X minimum to -180. X maximum to 180. And we're going to set Y minimum to -0.01 and Y maximum to to 0.01, Z minimum to -0.01 and Z maximum to 0.01. X, Y and Z friction all leave on 0, free movements ticked, and no collide is ticked as well. So you select point 1 to point 3, so that's the first wheel to the chassis. Click create constraint, and then you do the same with point 2. Boom. So now if we just duplicate that quickly just so we can see the results. We've got 2 wheels on the front that just swing about wildly, and the 2 wheels kind of stay in a perpendicular motion to the rest of the chassis. Woo! Now, the front wheels are slightly different because what we need to do is be able to control the front wheels. So using wire mod, you're going to need an expression for this, and I will put a link to the expression chip, the code for the expression chip. This is not actually mine, but I will put a link to the original down in the description below. So you want to spawn that on the floor there. Lift that up just so it's off the ground, it's not dragging on the ground. You will need to, using the advanced wiring tool, you need to select car entity and then select the chassis. Now that just orients the chip, this chip here, which will control the steering. It will orient that so it's facing the same direction as the actual chassis. What you then need to do is ball socket center. Oh, wait a minute. Precision alignment, sorry. And again with the front wheels, also the center of the first wheel, shift left click the center of the second wheel, and shift left click the center of the steering slave, if you will. You then go into the R context menu again, and we're choosing ball socket advanced. We want to keep free movement ticked, but we don't want any sort of movement in any direction. We want this plate to actually govern the angle of the wheels. So we select X minimum as negative 0.01, X maximum as 0.01. And again, free movement is ticked and no collide is ticked. We're going to go 0.1 to 0.3 and 0.2 to 0.3. Okay, so if we now duplicate that, you'll see it duplicates the plate here with it, and we will just to give you an example, as we turn that plate, the front wheels turn as well. Okay. Now, as you could see, the wheels kind of, they sort of, when you unfroze everything, they kind of drop to the ground, and that means there's nothing. What that basically means is nothing holding these wheels to the chassis, or you know. So in order to attach the wheels to the chassis and give some kind of suspension, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to spawn in a little plate like this. Bam, and just using the precision tool, move. For some reason, precision alignment doesn't work when you have used make spherical on the wheels. So we use the precision tool, move it from that point, move that plate from that point there to, oh damn it, wait a minute, let me just set up my smart snap to an even number, 8, there we go. So we're just going to move that plate so it's sitting on top of the wheel like that. We're then going to bounce this plate up a couple of notches, maybe 3 notches, something like that. And because of the arc of the actual suspension, it will sort of go round there. It's pivoting from that point over in that corner. So this wheel will sort of travel in an arc around there and around there, kind of. So what we want to do is to get the center of this to connect to the center of that in, you know, where the wheel meets the arc and where that plate meets the arc. We're just going to nudge across this plate by, say, 30%. Bam, like that. And you can see it's more sort of in line to where the center of the wheel will travel to, if you will. What we're then going to do is go back to precision alignment. We're going to right click that to select it. We're then going to go back to our mirror function, and we're going to mirror that plate across the center of the base plate. So shift left click on the rotate entity button, and then select hit normal again. I'm going to do the same for the back wheels. So shift left click once more to get that back left one over there, and then shift right click that one to get that back one over there. So we've got our 4 plates in place. Those are going to be sort of the top points of the suspension. which are all then going to connect to the center points of the wheels to create sort of a suspension, suspension setup really for each wheel. Now what we need to do is go into the wire tool, and I always struggle finding this one, but there it is. You click the hydraulic tool. The width really doesn't matter. I tend to set that to 1 just so I can see it. Multiplier, set that to 1. And what you're going to do is basically set up a hydraulic for each wheel. So the way I do it, there is slightly different ways of doing this, but the way I do it is on the base prop for the steering slave, I right click in the top left corner indicating that wheel there. It's quite important this so that you can sort of distinguish which hydraulic controls which wheel. So I right click there and then left click, so that'll give that front left wheel. Do the same in this corner, right click then left click, that'll give that front right wheel. Same in this corner, right click left click, that's the back right wheel. And finally in the back left corner, right click and left click. Now if you see, it's sort of drawn these hydraulics connecting to the ceiling. What you want to do is, using precision alignment, you can actually change the start and end points of these hydraulics. The way you do that is, select the precision alignment tool, select mass center to start off with, and we're going to do, first of all, we're going to do the hydraulic for our front left wheel. So I'm going to right click the hydraulic controller for this front left wheel. Okay, I'm then going to select the center of the wheel, and then going to shift select the center of this prop here. Actually, before I do that, let me just delete all. One important thing I forgot to mention, you can actually have it so that you don't have to have these plates on here. Now the way you do that is, you basically select all of the centers of these plates. So you, as I did before, single left click the first one, shift left click the rest. If you then right click the base prop, okay, and then go into your B context menu or your Q context menu, this menu here basically. If you then select point 1 on this left menu and click attach, as you can see, it moves sort of, it draws a line from that first point there to the center of the base of this base prop, this base plate. So if you do the rest, so number 2, number 3, number 4, clicking attach on each one, what you'll find then is, little handy tip this for you, you can then remove these plates, which means less weight for your chassis. It means it's less cumbersome, it's not as top heavy, all around just better performance really. So what you then do is, once you've selected all those, I then go, I'll shift left click all the centers of the wheels. Now the only thing by doing this is you just got to be a little bit mindful of where point number 5 is in relation to point 1, point 6 is in relation to point 2, and you'll understand why right now. Now basically what we're going to do is set up the hydraulic so that the start and end points will be point 1 and the center of the wheel, if you understand me. So what we're going to do is, with precision alignment selected, we're then going to go to the R menu. We're going to select constraints. Oh, and by the way, what we need to do is, we need to right click this hydraulic controller here, just so we're controlling that, if you will. So yeah, R menu, constraints, and then we click on wire hydraulic. Now, if you remember, I was saying we have to be mindful of where point 5 is in relation to point 1. This is why. Because what we do is, we select point 1 to point 5, and with that first hydraulic controller selected, so it's highlighted blue, you click create constraint. Wait a minute, what has happened? Right, okay, yeah. Let me just redo that. So undo that hydraulic. And we'll do that again. So 0.1 to 0.5, create constraint, and I think that will work. I hope that will work. Oh, damn it. Right, okay. I'm just going to have to recreate that hydraulic at the back there. Oh, you see, even the experts mess up sometimes. Expert, far from it. Right, so yeah, you've created that and hope that will work, please. In fact, let me just double check. Yeah, that's worked. Yeah, that's okay. So you've created that one. We will then go to precision alignment again, and we'll do the second one. So we right click the second hydraulic controller, which is going to connect, it's going to control this wheel here, so 0.6 to 0.2. So we then click 0.2, 0.6, bam. And basically what you do is just do exactly the same thing, so with each wheel. So right click that controller, that's 0.3 here to 0.7. Oops, 0.3 to 0.7. Click create constraint. And then do the same. Final wheel. So that's 0.4 to 0.8. Bam, 0.4 to 0.8. Create constraint. Okay, now, if we just dupe that and have a look, as you can see, it's behaving. It's a little bit more like suspension. However, as you can see, it's very glitchy, very twitchy, and it's going to be no good for doing anything with. The reason for that is because this central base prop currently weighs 24 kilograms. So what we need to do is just up that weight a little bit. So I put that up to about 250. It should be enough for this sort of example. And we'll just dupe that and make sure it works. Yeah, as you can see, it's it's got some suspension. Not quite enough though. What I like to do is there's two ways of doing this. You can either use the constant value gates in WireMod. So where are they? Constant value there. And basically set the that's two numbers, and you can have a constant of roughly about 20,000 and a damping of about 1,000. Don't go over sort of 1,200 because it tends to spaz out a little bit really. So we just put a chip on there, and what you can then do is wire up the each constant to 20,000, constant to 20,000, constant to 20,000, constant to 20,000, and then damping to 1,000, damping to 1,000, damping to 1,000, damping to 1,000. Bam! Now, once we've done that, we can just test that out, and you should be able to see a little bit of an improvement in just the suspensions. Sort of, you can see there's a little bit more spring in it now. Okay, what I will do is I will carry on the second half of this tutorial in the next video. I want to keep these fairly short, so I think I've been going roughly about 15-20 minutes so far, so I think it's probably a good point to stop. Thank you for watching. Click on the part 2 of this tutorial to carry on and to see the rest of the tutorial. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.